And now for part 2 of this, editing a highlight in as little time as possible, an efficient workflow. So in the last video we've finished assembling the basic layout of this track, and now we're going to begin to play with it a little bit. So I'm going to do this in a few passes. In the first pass, I'm simply going to be looking for fine-tuning the edit, moving cut points exactly where they need to go. I'm also going to be labeling clips in different colors. A lot of this footage is handheld, and I'm going to be marking certain clips off for to use Adobe Premiere's Warp Stabilizer afterwards. So here we go. Alright, so this first one, we're going to label it. This looks pretty smooth, I'm not going to touch it. That clip, although it's shaky, but I think it's kind of, the shake is going to play to the dreamy effect. I am going to see what Warp Stabilizer does. I don't think it's going to work, but I'll mark it off for it.
Audio Jungle.
Alright, so I'm just looking that the cut points are with the music. Where were we? I'm not worried about color just yet, and I'm marking off clips that I think might be able to be stabilized a little bit.
Audio Jungle.
There is certain times where the handheld look can play to a clip. Now this, even though it's, I think that shake I'm gonna leave. That one there, I will be trying to stabilize.
Your marriage should be a marriage from your great ideals looking up, and from your great dreams and visions looking down to make other people beautiful, to inspire the rest of Klal Yisrael to build Batei Nemanim, to build lives of greatness and lives of goodness. That's what we all appreciate and respect about the Torah. Bez Hashem, the blessing fits you. Bez Hashem, the blessing fits you. Perfectly.
Now the dancing, I'm kind of okay with there being a little bit of shake. It sort of brings you into the moment. So most of it I will not be stabilizing. That cut was a little bit off. So again, we're just gonna move the cut point over a little bit. That one I think could be stabilized to drop. We'll center the two subjects in the middle. That was a little bit off. some of these, I think all of them actually are going to be able to be stabilized, but we'll see how the warp stabilizer actually works for them.
Audio Jungle.
Okay, a little bit of a different ending than I might normally do, but I think it kind of works. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is, now that I've labeled things a different color, I just need to select that entire label group. I do recommend saving before doing this. This is a team project, so we just share. Alright, we're going to move into the effects panel. If you want to know how I was able to label things that quickly, I pretty much just assigned a shortcut. Pushing Alt and then different number keys make things different colors. So I have Alt 1 set to label a clip as yellow. These shortcuts are very helpful in making things go quickly, and you can do these things as the clip is playing. So now I've selected everything in my label group in yellow, and we're just going to add the warp stabilizer, and we see already that some clips are the wrong size, which is okay. It's going to be, it's the clips that were shot using my second camera, which is in 4K. Adobe wants us to nest those clips before stabilizing. So here's one of them. I don't always know exactly where they are. I happen to know that this was one of them. So we nest the clip and then add the stabilizer, and probably these first few, yeah. There's going to be one or two others. I don't know which ones they are yet. Alright, so in round 2, there's something else I wanted to do. I kind of wanted the, I don't know if I wanted the speech from the audio. Okay, well, we'll play with that soon. I may want to change where the audio from the rabbi speaking was. Again, I don't have a specific method or template for highlight videos. Everything is really truly custom made, and each one for each wedding, the music was specifically chosen to bring out the feeling that I felt was appropriate for this specific couple and their specific wedding. Right, so now in round 2 I'm going to be color correcting. All I'm looking for here is to get things to match and be normal color. I generally shoot with about approximately 1 stop of light underexposed. So we can just start off by adding a stop of light, and in most cases adding some contrast. That one actually doesn't need the contrast, so we're going to do that. I think I could do with a little brighter over there. It is a dark dramatic clip, but I'm also looking at the canopy out there. I don't want it to be too bright. Color I think is okay, so we're going to move on. This one here I want to be careful with, because I'm going to make it a little brighter, but I don't want to ruin that sort of dramatic look. I am going to keep the shadows down on the bottom, and alright, this one here is actually nicely exposed. Quite a bit more contrast. Not necessarily does the clip need the extra contrast, but following this clip it does. So here's what it would have looked like without that color correction. You know, it's kind of within range if you look at the scopes over here. The highlights on his shirt and his face are kind of up there, and shadows are down at the bottom, so it's actually pretty nicely exposed. Skin tones look pretty accurate, but coming after this super dramatic one, I think it just calls for a little bit extra, and once we have that, pretty much everything's gonna follow. So we're gonna, the next bunch of clips are kind of in the same place, so we can actually copy the effects. Okay, so this one here, we could just paste the attributes, not the warp stabilizer, but just the color. So again, here's without it, here's with it. Let's paste it on there too and see how it looks. See, this one here I don't think needs the contrast as much, so we're going to tone that down a little bit. We are going to give it a little bit brighter. And some of these things that were given the warp stabilizer, we may end up removing it or adjusting it. In this case, I'm actually going to switch it to a no motion option. Yeah, a lot of these I may remove the effect afterwards. Again, we're going to make this one brighter, and a shot of documents always looks good with a little extra contrast. Bring back the scopes over here so we can see what we're doing. Just find the right balance. Alright, we want it to kind of match with everything else. Alright, so now we've switched scenes. So now we can play with things as we see necessary. This clip is actually pretty nicely exposed. So, but we are just going to raise the contrast. The lenses that I'm using, I've found it's the Rokinon Cine lenses, and I found that when paired with the GH4 camera, kind of give you a little bit of a flat shot, even when shooting on a normal profile. Alright, this one here, we're going to kind of be careful with, because again, I want to keep that super dramatic look. But I don't want it to be out of place with everything else. So we're actually going to give that one a go with the stabilizer and see what happens. Alright, now we're outside, so again, we have a different scene. We could do completely different stuff, and I purposely shoot slightly underexposed in most cases. I just found that to give me a better result with the GH4. We're going to go with a little, just a drop more in the orange. And I don't like that you see his head turning, so I'm going to shift that clip over just a drop. Alright, now you see him smile. That's nice. Maybe a teeny drop red. Too much. I think that looks good. See how it looks. Can we shift it over a drop more so that we don't even see him moving? That's nice. And now over here, it's actually the sky's a little bit overexposed. We're just gonna kind of play with it and give this one a little bit more orange and raise the shadows up a little bit. I'm looking at the bushes, and I want the bushes to kind of look like they were in the same place. The bushes here are slightly more blue than the bushes here. Oh, you know what? The aperture is opening up mid-shot. So we're going to begin the shot after that. I don't want to see that. more orange here. I don't want to go too much. Okay, that's a little better. Alright, now we're in a different place. Now, this is a very dreamy shot. I'm not going to play with it too much. I might bring down the highlights a little bit and bring down the whole exposure, and then that's about it. It's okay in the shot if the color's not accurate. Here, and we're gonna literally go through every single shot. So I'm gonna bring down the shadows here. I don't want to simply add contrast because the highlights are way up there. We actually might bring them down a tad. And now I need to add a little color to his face without affecting the trees. So we're actually not going to add orange, which is going to make the trees look super orange. We're actually going to pull away some orange and add just a drop of red. And again, here's the original shot, and here's what we did with it. Alright. This, everyone kind of looks a little green. Let's see what we can do about that. I think that's already better. There's a lot of weird lighting with shadows and sun over here, so I don't know how good I'm going to get it, and it's a very brief shot, so we might just leave it how it is. Bring up the shadows a little more, add contrast, and that might be it for that shot. Alright, now we're here. This obviously needs to be way brighter. And now the color looks a little off. Or that book in the front with their names was like an ivory white, not an orange. So we're going to try to bring back that color. I'm thinking right about there. Gonna darken the shadows a little bit, and alright, just to show you where we've come from. This is the low contrast, this is the high contrast. I still think it looks a drop green. I think that's looking right. Alright, over here is actually pretty nicely exposed, but if we just add a little contrast and pull back the shadows a little bit, we turn it into a very nice shot, and the warp stabilizer is not going to look nice over there, so out it comes. Alright, again here this shot was in the same room, taken at almost the same time, so over here we just brought the contrast up to 70. Let's go with 65. His hands look a little bit orange. Boom, that's our shot. And again here, I think, because we're matching color, just want that bottle to kind of look the same in both shots, so that works. Alright, new scene. Pull out the orange just a drop, and maybe pull out some red a drop. I think that's going to be good. Shot here, let's see if the warp stabilizer worked. And it actually worked pretty nicely. There's a little bit of warping, hence warp stabilizer, so we're going to lessen the effect. And let's see if we got a better shot now. And there we go, that looks good. I'm not so worried about the very top and the very bottom because I'm not going to be exporting this as a 16:9 frame, and we'll get to that soon. Alright, so these shots can definitely be brighter. I'm doing a lot of this by sight. I'm using the charts just as a guide. Kind of go with that, and I'm actually going to copy those attributes because very likely these next few shots are going to do the same thing, and nope, not this time. Okay, so these can actually be even brighter. Don't want it to be too bright, but again, here is the original shot, dark, flat. I think it's looking a little blue. We'll go with that. We might fine-tune things later. This clip apparently was sped up. Why? Oh, you know what? This clip was reverse speed. Actually played this clip in reverse. This is the actual shot is the groom finishing his motion and giving back the handkerchief, which is part of the ceremony here. But I just reversed it to make him look like he's taking it and picking it up. Again, I have shortcuts for all these things. My mouse has 11 customizable buttons. It's actually the Logitech G602. Great mouse. You make your common choices, your common functions into shortcuts. So copy and paste attributes, nest a sequence. My pointer tool and my razor tool are just mouse clicks. So and undo and redo are also mouse clicks. And she's still looking a little orange. You know what it is? I think the shadows just need to be a drop brighter. Maybe the blacks. Really, I should be doing this with a color wheel and just brighten up. We could try that. The shadows, I want to go with drop more blue. Too much. Wrong direction, actually. Or in the curves. Nah. We could try this. We're gonna take the orangey kind of colors. We'll take the skin tones and see if we could pull them up just a tad. Let's get the right set of colors here. I think that does it. You can see the difference here is, right? See, we just kind of made her face look a little brighter. That was the U versus saturation. You select the U versus luma. You select the U and then changes the exposure. Now we could bring a little orange back into the whole shot, and back to hair. This needs to be a drop warmer, a lot more contrast, and probably half a step up on the exposure. It's a different room, so it doesn't need to match exactly. It does need to look normal, though. I think I'm okay with that shot. Just needs a lot of contrast and a little bit of exposure. It is a dark shot. It's okay for it to be a little dark. Well, yeah, that's okay. The focus is really going to be on the papers. Cool down that shot just a little bit. There's not much I could do here, and it's a very quick shot, so I don't know. Okay. We'll go with that. Again, here, this could be much brighter. This process is a bit tedious, but it really makes or breaks the whole video. So, a few minutes here, and you really have something pleasant to work with. And so far, we've only spent 25 minutes on this, so it really isn't that bad. Now, what happened here, the reason the shot's so warm is I probably switched rooms and didn't have a chance to switch the white balance and kept shooting on the same settings as I did in the other room. And it's just going to be a matter of finding where everything looks decent. Alright, so here's where we were, here's where we are now. It's going to be a little playing with it. I'm kind of looking at the faces, and I want them to look normal, I guess is the word. We're going to go with that. This shot I'm not really going to play with too much. I'll pull a little bit of the orange out just so the mom in the front over here looks less orange. Otherwise I'm going to leave the shot as is. Shot again, I think we could just add contrast here. It'll make the iPad pop a little bit, which is really what this shot's about. And we'll bring up the shadows a little bit so the bride's a little brighter. And I think we're good there. It will cool it down a little bit. Okay, it's the shot of the food. As long as the food looks normal, we're good. So let's make it a little more contrast. Detail shots always look good with a little bit of extra contrast. In here, brighter. So the issue we're having here is that the party planner has these blue lights out. It says that there's a mix of white balances that just don't necessarily work. The room lighting and all other things. By more important parts of the day, I use my own lights to try to cancel those out a little bit. For these quick shots, you can't always do that. That looks pretty good. You could take down the contrast a drop and take down the orange a little bit. In here, this will be the usual, making it brighter, adding more contrast. And it looks like this room I just had set a little bit too warm. Again, just the before and afters are pretty cool. You see where you came from. I mean, just seeing the shot, it kind of, you know, it passes. It doesn't look professional, but it's a shot. But then you just little bit of color correcting, and you go to a whole new level with it. This is a little bit blue. This is going to be a hard shot to do because we have the sunlight, and we're just going to kind of make it within reasonable limits. We'll bring down those highlights a little bit. And we'll also bring down the shadows to bring back the shot to normalcy. And we're going to go with that. This is obviously way too orange. And a teeny drop overexposed. Let's see what we can do to fix this. That's just a little push and pull. Play around with things until you kind of get it right. Adobe does have a great matching function, which allows you to queue up two shots and try to match the color. It works better when you have multiple angles on the same scene. I haven't had too much success with it so far. And then it's okay. We kind of just want the hands to look normal color and the chairs to look normal. This was a secondary camera. It was stationed over the bride's shoulder and no one was manning it, so it kind of is what it is. We could actually do something cool here. Let's get rid of the color correcting and let's correct the actual master clip. And then all other versions of this clip will automatically be corrected. I think we're good right about there. Alright. Now this is an important shot, so we're gonna do what we can to make it look normal. She's very green. An interesting trick. You could also just use this auto white balance thing. The problem is finding something that's actually supposed to be white, and it doesn't always get it exact. Interesting trick when so the bride's wearing a lot of makeup, the groom is not, and it kind of makes their skin, you could raise the saturation and you can kind of see she's orange, he's a little red. Bring back the saturation a little bit, tone it down purposely, and you can kind of make the clips match a little better. And here is where we were, and here's where we are now. This clip should already be corrected from over here, except now that it's alongside other clips, we just have to make it match. Okay, his skin tones look the same. And this clip here, yes, much brighter. We need it to be brighter. We need get the orange out of their faces. And again, I'm going to use that trick with just bringing back the saturation just a drop. And kind of, it sort of gets rid of the color differences with all these different kinds of lights. We're making them less intense, and then we can give our own overall spin on the color. Here's where we were, a very orange clip with weird blue lights in the background, so making this whole clip more blue would have made those lights in the back look strange. But now they kind of still look bluish, and you can see the people a little better. Alright, I actually want to see if the warp stabilizer worked here. We're going to make it less. Alright. Much more contrast. A little bit more orange, and I think we're there with that clip. Just want it to look, you know, when you're going from one clip to the next, you want it to look like they sort of happened in the same room. This one's going to be interesting. We want to see... It's kind of a high contrast clip already, so we're just going to take that to the extreme. You sort of can't see his face, but you could see that it's a groom walking down. I think that works. I'm just going to brighten up the whole thing a little bit. And take back the whites and highlights. This can just be made a little brighter with a little more contrast, and we're good with that clip. Same here. We'll go 1 and 50. Take out a little bit of orange, and most likely the rest of the ceremony is going to follow this. Nope, too much red. We'll go with that, and we're going to copy the attributes from that clip. And again here, we're just going to take the look that's already there, which is a dark, shadowy kind of look, and make it even more extreme. Alright, this just needs a little brightness. I did not have lights on that section of the room. So it's just a room light, and I was also shooting continuously, which means that my white balance is set for the canopy. Also a little green. We could use that trick again with taking away the saturation. And not quite liking it yet. We'll go back to our curves over here, and again U versus Luma, and we're going to take our browns, yellows, reds, and see if we can make them a little brighter within the clip. I think that does it. Let's go back to the basic correction, and now we can, I think we have a shot there. Alright, we're gonna just save. And we're going to move on. Despite being only about halfway through these clips, we're actually closer to being done than you think. A lot of these are going to be repetitive, with just small adjustments. So again, the clip actually looks good as is. Maybe a little brighter. More contrast here, and a little less orange. I think we're good there. As we mentioned in the last video, the bride does not have a father. Normally at a Jewish wedding, the parents would walk the bride down. This clip we're going to adjust its master because it's a back camera, and if I used it more than once, we only need to do this process one time. There we go. And once again, we're going to go to our curves and just kind of just a drop. Get our skin tones brighter without manipulating too much else in the clip. And now I have what to play with over here. We can add more contrast and drop less saturation, and there we go. So again, it's always fun to see where it came from, where it went. could just paste the attributes from before and make minor adjustments. Here. Most of these clips are just gonna kind of be the same thing. Let's actually undo that. This clip was too different. Okay. So what I'm gonna have to do here is actually zoom in. The canopy is just a drop too bright. So we're gonna zoom into the clip a little bit. I want to do it as little as possible, so I'm just going for an exact look. That way I could adjust without worrying about the overexposed canopy. And that I think we're good. I'm just looking to match the groom's face between the two shots. Perfect. We'll go a little bit more towards the orange just for the ending part of that shot. This, again, we're just, oops, I don't know what happened there. And it looks very blue and red. Just looking for things to match. Perfect. So a lot of these clips are just the same. They're the same place, same shot, same settings. So whatever I did to one clip is gonna kind of work for the other. With some small adjustments. This clip is already pretty bright, so just gonna that's it. That ought to do it there. It's mom smiling at her kid about to get married. The focal point here is really going to be those hands in the ring, so I'm not going to worry too much about anything else in the shot. And we're going to go right about there. That should be good. She looks a little green. And we accidentally jumped to the end. Perfect. You see that smile? Let's just add a little contrast, brighten up the rabbi's face, and we're done there. That looks a little blue. That clip was already done because we... Oh, that clip was actually not done, but we can leave it. That looks pretty good. And we're good over there. Not going to change this too much. Now once we get up to the dancing, there should just be one or two colors that should match the whole room. That is very dark. Brighten it up, add contrast, and we're good there. For all three of these, I don't know why the default of the warp stabilizer is 50%. Most of the time that's too much and warps the clip a little bit more than necessary.
To make other people
This specific one was actually good at 50%.
to make other people beautiful, will inspire the rest of Klal Yisrael to build Batei Nemanim, to build lives to build Batei Nemanim.
And there. And this one, the clip's gonna be shaky just because of the nature of what was going on there. I'm gonna give it a second to let it finish and just make sure it looks good. While I'm doing that, I can play around with the color a little bit. Looking a little bit orange and a little flat.
To build Batei Nemanim, to build lives of greatness and lives of goodness.
Alright, very orange, and the reason for that is because they run in from one end of the room, and my lighting is all set up on the other side of the room. So we just kind of make it work. That's going to be the best we're going to get it here. That's okay. Now, for dancing, we just got to find our one or two looks that work. A little bit more red in there. It's probably good. I'm looking at their faces over there, and it kind of looks normal skin tone. And we're going to save that. We're going to copy those attributes, because a lot of these clips, again, are just going to be the same thing. We can go to our curves and bring up those oranges a little bit. Or more just the reds in his face. And now we can brighten up the shadows and darken the whole clip a little bit. So we are here, and again, there's a lot of different lights in the room, so it's going to be tricky. Tricky is an understatement.
Perfectly like a suit.
See, every time they move around, the whole thing changes. But this is kind of the same shot as before, so we can paste attributes from earlier. And that shot actually looks pretty good, as is. Again, here we could just give it a little more contrast. Take out the saturation a little bit and get rid of some of those color differences. I think these two are gonna be kind of similar. That looks pretty good to me. And that clip is pretty good as is. Add a little more contrast. Bring down the exposure a little bit. We are almost at the back end of this. So this one there's a camera flash in the shot, so we just want to move it away. This whole clip looks a little too warm. And here's the original. And again, it's very hard. This specific venue is a little bit tricky with the lighting. So at this point, we're just as good as we could possibly get it within reason. That clip I think we could actually stabilize. And we gotta nest it first. So we'll do that. We'll add a little more contrast than we had before. This clip here is extremely yellow. And now they kind of still look green. I think that's good. A little brightness, a little bit of contrast, and cool it down a little bit. And we're good with that shot. So that's an easy one. That's not an easy one. But it looks like a similar shot to this one. So we'll take that and put it down there. And you see that we kind of got it with minimal effort. This one's going to be a hard one. It's a bit of a messy shot, which is okay to have one or two of those in a highlight. You kind of see that stuff's happening, you don't really see what. The coloring on here looks good, I just think it needs to be a little brighter. This looks similar to those other shots, so match that, raise the shadows up a little bit, and that should be good. We can make it brighter. And again, we have one of these shots that looks super yellow, so paste attributes, and it should just do it. And it does. Now this shot, I just know by the way the wedding took place that this shot would have been a little bit different. I think I want it to look like the same wedding, so I think that's good. I think that's good. We should be right near the end, and we are. Now at this point I'm more just eyeballing it. Alright, so what happened here is my light was pointed in that direction, so that's why those clips are getting a little easier to correct. Add contrast here, add brightness. We don't want to completely blow out the parachute that she's in. Again, just bring down the exposure a little bit and the whites so his face kind of isn't overexposed. We'll also add a little orange. Focus on his face. And this is just a fun shot. You could kind of see her in the background popping that balloon. And detail shots always look good. A little bit extra contrast. This one, need a little orange, a little contrast, a little brightness. There it is. See, here's the original. There's where we have it. Just want to make sure it matches the shot before, or at least somewhat. Now these two shots have to match exactly. Okay, so again, just a handful more clips here. I may fine tune and make adjustments throughout afterwards. But again, we're just looking for the basic, getting things to look kind of normal and somewhat match with each other. That looks pretty good. That looks pretty good. And this here is a drone shot. It's actually the first few frames of it, the drone looks like it turned. We do want to just even that out a little bit and let it start from where the drone's actually going back already. The only thing you typically have to do with drone shots is add a bit of contrast. Kind of automatic and usually pretty good. The only reason I'm changing the second one is these orange lights down in the center are these lights here. So I want them to kind of match. That's probably about as good as I'll get it for now. Okay, now to do these, I do need to mute out one layer and just correct these. Oops. What's that in here? Oh, so this clip here needs to match this clip in color. And now we're gonna shut off that layer and just correct these right here. So they just need a little bit of orange, nice amount of contrast. Can actually increase the dramatic effect by increasing the contrast. The shadows get crushed and you kind of just have the bride and groom over there. And let's get this clip brightened up, a little bit warmer, and a whole bunch more contrast. And we're going to actually do the same thing by crushing the shadows. So what's going to happen is, in this clip, we're sort of we're not going to actually see the shadows. We'll see the clip that's above it, but we'll see their faces through it. Alright, next one. And we're going to do the same thing to all these. Just kind of get the skin tones looking right. And then make it as dramatic as we possibly could. Is this the same? It's a similar shot, but they're looking at each other. That's okay. Fix that, lower the shadows, and once again, we're going to have this super, super dramatic effect. Now, something changed with the light over there. It could be, if we just move these over a little bit, we'll get that to be a little more even. Alright. Something froze over here, so I'm going to pause the recording. Usually when the computer's doing a lot of things at the same time, I'll pause it. I'll be right back when it sorts itself out. Okay. Just see. Alright, so I have to reload the project, but we're saved pretty much where we left off. Now I'll turn back on that other layer. And this one's actually kind of a tricky one. I want to keep the drama, but I don't want to completely ruin the shot. I want to maintain that sort of silhouette look. I think we did that. We just made the contrast a little bit more. So now, this is the same shot as that. Actually, it's the same shot as this, so. And I do need to make them not fade into each other. We also have to join through edits like that. And analyzing the way I'm going to do this instead, because I have a warp stabilizer on this effect, we're just going to use the keyframes of opacity to make this clip go down to, so let's try 50% opacity. We also want this warp stabilizer to be a no motion warp. And we'll zoom in a little bit. And I think that should do it. Okay, so we move that clip down a little too much. And this one here, it's just their ring. And again, we're going to increase the contrast drastically so that when the clips are overlaid over each other, I don't like how someone's walking into that shot over there. He starts walking in right about here. We're going to see if we could slide that clip over. I don't know that we can. Oh, you know what? Someone's walking through a good part of the shot. I think if we just let this begin to fade out earlier, we might not see it. And that does it. Okay, so that's basically it. One last thing we're going to do on this last pass is we're going to do something that's somewhat controversial, but we're actually going to do it correctly. And that is we're going to put in the cinema bars. This is often not done correctly, and we're actually going to see the proper way to do it right now. So we're looking for a 21:9 aspect ratio, and the mistake people make is that they add these on top and get the look of the 21:9 aspect ratio. Some of these things are going to need adjustment, I can see that already. They get the look they're going for, and then they just export a 16:9 video with these bars in there, and that is completely incorrect. That is not the Hollywood way of doing these things. But we do need the bars to be in here temporarily, just to give us a reference of how this video is going to look once we do actually export it. So we're going to watch through it one time in real time, and we're looking for mistakes, and at the same time we are checking just to make sure that we could see the important parts of every frame. We're going to adjust cut points as needed. So that can get cut right there, and again we'll have to analyze. This I want to raise up just a drop so that the canopy is completely in it, and I also want to turn it just a fraction of a degree, just 1 degree actually. I know it's hard because like this the canopy is straight. We'll just go a drop. And some of these can be made a little darker. And like I said, we have minor adjustments. This here can definitely go down a little bit. And this clip here, so something like this, we just want to move it down a little bit, just so we do want to see his hands. So get it in just like that. And over here we definitely want to move it up, so that the photographer and the groom are in it. This one can go down a little bit. And this one, I think we can actually leave. We see their faces. Maybe we'll bring it down a little bit. No, because I like the, at least the bottom of the circle in there. So.
Audio Jungle.
This will bring it up so that we can see the whole staircase. I do want to see if I could correct the fisheye a little bit. So. Gotta remember what it's called here. There we go. I used one of the GoPro presets. And that's certainly a little bit better. Let's see if we could play with it a little bit. I don't want to play with it too much because the shot was nice when it was wide. This one can go down a little bit. I think this was a little bit on the orange side. Okay, so it's important that their heads aren't cut off at the top. This one I want to move down because I want to bring in as much of the groom as possible. Obviously he was somewhat out of the shot. We're also going to zoom this shot in a little bit just so we can make the mom's face over there that got in it not the main part of the shot. This I want to switch into a no motion warp stabilizer, and let's see if I could. I could, it's just not centered. So if we move that over to there, 110, that does it. Nice, that's nice. This will move down a little bit and just bring their heads a little more into the shot.
Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle.
Hey, repeatedly, the bathroom, the dust.
Audio Jungle.
Hey, repeatedly, the bathroom, the dust.
Alright, this one here we'll bring down a drop. And again here, we'll just bring him down just a drop.
Your marriage should be a marriage from your great ideals looking up and from your great...
This one, if we move it down, we can bring the whole canopy into the shot. We can also make it so that it's a little more centered. So I'm thinking something like this and 0.8 of a degree spun. 0.6. Just get the shot straight.
Ideals looking
Yeah, let's move him down a little bit.
your great deeds of catching, looking down to make other people beautiful, will inspire the rest of Klal Yisrael to build Batei Nemanim, to build lives of greatness and lives of goodness. That's what we'll
And this is a little bit orange. Like I said, we have some fine tuning to do as we get through these.
expect with that. Let Hashem, the blessing fits you perfectly like a seed, perfectly like a together to make undisturbed work.
Yes, I do want to give a once over to all these dancing shots and try to make them just match a little bit better. If we need to go more blue, we'll figure it out.
Let's Hashem, the blessing fits you.
That looks a little better.
Perfectly like you see.
I think that's it. A little more blue and pull down the colors a little bit. Seems to be doing it. Here, add a little red, pull down the color a drop, and we seem to get something that is a little bit more what it should be. That's pretty good. Except on this one here, we could also just pull down the saturation a little bit. This one could be a little brighter. This one can come down a little bit. We just have to remember, this is only because I'm going to be exporting this in a wider ratio. This moving things up and down would be skipped if we were going to export as 16:9. Okay, so we just need the groom to be completely in the shot. It's kind of important. And again, pull down the color a little bit. And pull them into the shot. And pull them into the shot a little bit. This, obviously, we need to pull down so that the flip is completely in the shot, or as much as possible. And we'll bring it down a little. That's good. That's good. This could come down a little bit. This can come down a little bit. This is good, but I want to go a little more orange and a little less color. This one we obviously need to bring down a drop. Okay, move that cut point just a little bit. Okay, and I think with that we're pretty much set. I think we're ready to export. Oh, actually one more thing. So during this segment here where a few segments where we hear audio, just gotta make sure. Just gotta make sure that you hear the background audio too. That's good. Let's check this one here. Okay, so right over there, what I want to do is lower the volume of the main track just a little bit. So as the audio of the groom talking fades in, we're going to fade the audio of the main music track out. We can move this over a little bit, just to the point where he actually starts talking. Alright, and this one here can be louder. We'll add a volume on here, bring it up a few decibels.
Your marriage should be a marriage from your great ideals looking up and from your great deeds of chesed looking down to make other people beautiful, will inspire the rest of Klal Yisrael to build Batei Nemanim, to build lives of greatness and lives of goodness, as we all appreciate and respect the Dr. Let Hashem, the blessing fits you perfectly like a suit, perfectly like a dress. It should be the next 120 years we have the joy of watching you bring the chuppah and the kedushin together to make Am Yisrael great.
Right, and starting right here, we are going to let the music slowly come back to its full volume. So, let's bring it smoothly back, and we should be good for export. Oh, almost. We're always going to find something. That clip can definitely move down a little bit. And I actually did want to give this entire thing a little bit of a cinematic look. So we're going to create an adjustment layer. And I'm just going to put the whole adjustment layer up there. And for this adjustment layer, we're going to take it out. We're going to lower the contrast of the entire video. We're going to make it slightly, actually want it to go slightly green. That's really where I want it to go. Let's give it a little bit of a dreamy kind of look. That's it. So here's the natural colors, and here's the adjustment layer. Well, whoops, wrong thing. Here's the natural colors. You see the oranges pop in here. It's just desaturate a little bit, where the 21:9 aspect ratio is designed to be a little more dreamy. People use the word cinematic. It's not necessarily the appropriate word for it. We're looking for sort of peeking in through a narrow window at an event which the emotions can never be repeated. And we're just trying to remember the past. So I think the slightly desaturated colors throughout are going to play into that a little better. We have our logo at the end, and you'll notice I didn't fade into the beginning. It just starts. And that is actually done on purpose. So we're going to do something interesting with this on Vimeo. Alright, the only thing left to do is to purchase the music track, which I'll pause the recording while I do that. Alright, so we just purchased the audio track, and now we just want to get rid of the version that has the watermark in. The easiest way to do that is find your audio track in your project bin and just do replace footage. Then you go to wherever it was stored, and I'm going to take the WAV file and just replace it in. And we'll check that it did everything right.
Shlishi b'Shabbat.
I'm just gonna double check the points where we cut things. I think on this adjustment layer, do want to increase the contrast. Alright, we're taking down the colors. We don't want it to be colorless, we just want the colors to be a little more dreamy. Go 50%. I think for dancing, I need even more. Well, for dancing, I want this effect to be not quite as dramatic. We'll bring a little bit of the color back. And now the video is basically done. I do want to create an intro screen. So we're going to do this by, we're going to create a title over this first frame. Actually, let's leave that all here. And let's graphics, new layer, text. We'll put that in the center. And Chaya and Zev. That is how they spell their names. It's Hebrew names. And their wedding was on June 14th of this past summer. So in graphics, we're going to add another text layer. And again, we're going to make that one centered. We're also going to move it down. Okay. Now we'll put in the numbers, just 6, 14, 2018. Now back to this first layer. We're going to give it a nice font. Let's find some of the ones I've used recently. Oops. Got that, and I want something a little more elegant. I had one that I had downloaded a while back, and I don't see it here now. Nope. Not quite what I'm looking for there. Maybe. Let's make the text, the date a little bit smaller. Bring it back up underneath their names over there. I do this a lot. You'll see this on a lot of my videos. This look with the date under the names. It's okay. think that works. The only thing we need to do is make it that you could see those words a little bit better against the white background. And we therefore need a dark shadow. A little bit too much there. That does it. Let's copy that shadow to the date. Just need the direction to be out that way. Give it a little pop. And I think we're good. We just need this to fade out. So let's see what happens. And we don't need the title to last very long. This cut needs to be just a little bit back this way. That's good. Get that analyzed. Okay, so what's going to happen is the thumbnail of the video is going to be this very first frame. So you're going to see this at the start of the video. And then as it starts, the names will fade away. So it creates a nice effect that I like. Just wait for that to finish stabilizing. Okay. And now for export settings. So export this. We are going to do, so I actually have a preset. What is that one? That is actually the one I want. Right, so it's a Vimeo preset, but then with the video frame adjusted, and this is why we're not actually exporting the bars into the frame. We're exporting this at 920 by 816. So it'll give us that 21:9 aspect ratio, but the actual file will be that size, as opposed to a taller file that just has black bars embedded in it. We're also going to have Media Encoder upload this directly to Vimeo. And with that, we're going to queue it up. And as soon as Media Encoder opens, we are going to give it a start. I hope those few hours were insightful, I guess is the word, educational. I hope it was interesting. And let me know if you want to see more of these full-length live edits.